Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining the Twitter space for the Lagos State SDG and Invest. Thank you for joining in early. So, while we're waiting for others to join, please, I'd like you all to do the honor of introducing yourself. I mean, this is the space where you can tell us everything that you do that is being shaping the world around you, because I have a lot of questions for you guys today, and we are talking about how Lagos can harness technology for sustainable development. But first, before I start the conversation, let's get some introduction up in the house already. Ayobankole, you can start. Then Mr. Abubakar, Josh, of course. I can see that you guys are here. So let's take that order.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for doing this and thank you for inviting me. My name is Ayo. I do multiple things to contribute to sustainable impact. Primarily run a boot camp series for SMEs, part of our bid to contribute to SDG Goal 1, SDG Goal 8, and a few others. I run a business called Caladium Consulting. We're a strategy company primarily focused on SMEs to expand their capacity to build sustainable businesses. But because we also understand that not many SMEs, especially the nano and micro ones, can afford professional services, so we started off the bootcamp to support the lowest, the smallest units of businesses pro bono, and we have built a sort of ecosystem to grow to help them regenerate wealth and build sustainable businesses. Yeah, I also run a fintech startup called Federal Cash. We are building a platform that allows SMEs trade their invoices at a discount to solve their liquidity and supply chain problems. So, in summary, that's what I do, and I'm happy to be here. Have a great evening.
Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. Can everyone hear me, please? I just need verification if everyone can hear me.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, Mr. Abubakar, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for hosting me here today. I'm glad to be here. My name is Abubakar Sanusi. Just call me Mr. Sanusi for short. Okay. I am the founder and the CEO of Jupiter Inc. Jupiter is Africa's digital fashion pioneer. We are the first digital fashion tech startup in Africa. The first. There are a lot of digital fashion creators, okay, in Africa. There are a lot of them that have been existing way before we came into the picture. But when you talk of a digital fashion brand, as in not just a creator, but a team of creators as a startup, so we are the first in Africa. We did back to 2019. People know us by our creators division, which is Jupiter Studios. Jupiter Studios is a creator-led brand. So if you check out what we do, we design, we create different digital wares using our own created avatars and all that. We are the largest we have the largest social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube channel, of course, and we're even on the NFC Market Square, which is OpenSeas. And right now, as we speak, we're also working on a platform. We're creating a virtual fashion community whereby we bring together fashion creators, fashion brands, vendors. We bring all of them together to the platform. So one can create a virtual store, sell his or her digital wares, trade some as NFTs. Some can just create content just for creativity, collaborations, fashion models. We will even be having digital fashion runway events within the platform. So it will be called Jupiter Stores. So that's where we're heading. Apparently, we are on the verge of receiving a pre-seed funding. Actually, that was our meeting yesterday. So we have an angel investor who is backing us, and we're looking forward to creating a huge, mark in the digital fashion industry entirely. Honestly, how I got here was because I was trained by some of the creators of Artifact. Artifact is the NFT, or let me say the Web3 brand that was acquired by Nike. So they were the one that gave me the insight on how to do this digital fashion thing. And of course, with some Nigerians coming around me to support me. So that's how we got to where we are today. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abubakar. Like me, people just throwing in their flowers. You gave us detailed introduction. I was also talking about Ayo. I didn't know my mic was off. This new technology, eh? You also talk about how you're the winner of some fintech competition and, of course, boot camp for SMEs. I like me some winner energies in the house today. Welcome, welcome, guys. We also have Josh, Daniel. I can see you. Hakim, if you're here, please accept the request to be a speaker. Also, Akin, accept the request that has been sent to you as a speaker. Josh, you can go on with some introduction of who you are and what you do. You can take the floor. You can tell us as much as everything that you're involving in the tech space or whatever you're doing.
Hi everyone, I hope you're well. My name is Joshua Alade, and I am currently building Nigerian Youth SDGs Network, which is a youth-led civil society organization raising awareness about the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria. Our work cuts across policies that would really help young people to be able to lead and thrive, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about civic engagement, and also education. I would say that over the last 3 years, Nigerian SDGs has been in on the forefront of championing for decent work for young Nigerians. When COVID happened, we led a nationwide awareness, just talking about the aspirations of young people when it comes to decent work, which led to the formulation of the new Nigerian Youth Employment Action Plan 2021 to 2024, which is a plan by the Nigerian government to create 3.7 million jobs every year for young people in Nigeria. And the central theme of the action plan is around employment, entrepreneurship, education, and rights. And with respect to employment and entrepreneurship, one is with respect to creating access to digital skills program for young Nigerians themselves. So on one side, I am working around policy that would actually enable young people to be able to lead and thrive. And just recently, in my night's time, I'm building a tech platform. I'm currently the co-founder of a tech platform called Closer. Closer is a health and wellness brand that is actually geared towards ending menstrual poverty in Africa. So yeah, this is what I do, and then also just to say that I was actually selected as one of the first youth SDGs ambassador by the Lagos State government to be able to raise awareness around the SDGs with young people working with the state government together to localize the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh. You've been in like doing this for 3 years now, so I'm sure some of the goals we are going to talk about today are some things or ongoing conversation that's been in the works for the past couple of years. So thank you for highlighting the works you've been doing, and of course, policies are very important. So we're going to be touching on that, and looking forward to your startup coming soon into the space. I mean, closer. It's really good that you actually taking time for to cater for women. I really love that. We also have Akin. Thanks for accepting the request as speaker and making it here on time. So please do us some introduction. Daniel, you can go after Akin. Thank you very much.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Akin Alabi. I'm the co founder and visionary at Corporate Farmers International. It's an agribusiness company here in Lagos and Abuja. So, for us at Corporate Farmers International, we have five major business models basically within the agricultural ecosystem. So, one, we are a farm management company using technology to drive agriculture. Two, we're also into commodity trading. We also have an agri media and extension and communication platform. So we have a communication platform basically for the agribusiness sector, and also we are into capacity building and training. So for us, we've been in existence for 2 decades in Nigeria, and our focus is basically agribusiness youth oriented. So our focus is basically how to drive youth majorly, which we call the future farmers, in using technology basically to drive agribusiness for the future. So far we've been able to mentor and grow over 45,000 youths across Nigeria, who today are now experts and CEO of themselves across the country. And basically, we have been able to work with both state governments, federal government, international partners, and one of our partners is the NGX. So we are the sole company that organize workshop with the NGX on agribusiness enterprise around the entire value chain. So in terms of agriculture, for us, we focus on crop production and livestock. So currently, right now, our value chain enterprise is within both the short-term crops and also cash crop, but majorly cash crop in terms of oil palm and cashew. And also in terms of short-term crops or arable crops, we have partners in Kebbi. So we do rice in Kebbi, and also we have a maize farm in Kwara State. And for livestock production, we have a livestock farm that we manage somewhere in Ekpe, about over 50,000 birds. And also we have our experts across the country. So one of the things that makes us unique as corporate farmers is that we've been able to add innovation into the agricultural ecosystem, majorly using technology to drive the business. And I'm also an author. I authored the book called The Rise of Digital Agriculture, which I believe is Nigerian only book that talks keenly on how to use simple tools to drive agriculture using technology, using digitalization to drive technology, which we believe that in the next couple of years, that is the mainstay and that's the future of agriculture. How technology can make the work of our farmers more efficient and more effective. So that has been our work for the past 2 decades, and we're where we are today. And thank you again for having me on this conversation.
Thank you so much, Akim. I mean, taking down all of your achievements and works was like really long. And also, I like the fact that you wrote the book in direction for digital agriculture because right now the world is so digital. Everything we need books and more authors telling people what to do and how to navigate their works. We have Akim here. Akim is also here, but Daniel will go first. Daniel has been here for some time. Please, Daniel, introduce yourself and tell us what you do and how best you do what you do.
Hi, my name is Daniel Anyebu. Yeah, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Sycamore. What we do at Sycamore, basically, we provide loans to small businesses, SMEs, yeah, just credits to businesses that need it really. Sycamore is an interesting place, right? Because I joined this company, this at the time it was like very tiny, right? I think it was about 2 years, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do there. But over like the last 2 years, I've seen Sycamore disburse millions of transactions to small businesses. We're playing our own part in like the grand scheme of things in supporting economic growth and credit facilities to small businesses, right? Before Sycamore, I think I have worked with business companies like Andela and Tix South Africa. Why I'm even pointing this out, I know like it might not have anything to do with what we're talking about. Why I think I'm pointing this out is one of the things I've done or over the years is to be very passionate about the growth of people. So I think from Andela to Tix South Africa and everywhere I've worked, right, something that I have made sure I try to do is like be passionate about like just basically the growth of people, like try to bring as many people, try to mentor as many people that are in the tech scene, that are coming to the tech scene. And I think in a way that's like my own way of giving back to the community. So while at Andela, I did that. Even currently at Sycamore, we partner with companies like Tech for Dev. We're in talks with Conclase. Like all of this is just to make sure the ecosystem is adequately supported. People, we don't leave a lot of talent outside. You know what I mean? So yeah, great to be here.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that introduction. Of course, we'll be talking about the loans because it's necessary also. A couple of people are now entrepreneurs and they're joining us. So we'll be looking at how they can have access to some of this greatness from Sycamore. Akim, yes, you have the floor to please introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Hakim Onosoya. I am the head of the startup division, also called Lagos Innovates, at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. And my role encompasses curating and executing interventions to support the tech ecosystem in Lagos. We do that via four major interventions. One is we run an incubation program, which we call the Idea Hub. And what that program does is to take very early stage and idea stage founders through an 8 weeks um, session. In that 8 weeks, they have very intensive master classes taken by renowned stakeholders in the ecosystem, as well as they are paired one on one with mentors who then have conversations, sessions with them once a week for 8 weeks. The assumption is that by the time they're done, they're able to be in a better position to raise funding, attract more customers, and the likes. The next intervention is our workspace voucher, where we provide vouchers to startup founders and innovatively driven enterprises in Lagos. These vouchers give them as high as 80% discount on the use of workspaces or hubs in Lagos. What this then means is that if you want to use a hub in Lagos that costs 10 naira and you apply to our workspace voucher and we give you a voucher of 7 naira, what it means is that you're only going to pay 3 naira in addition, 3 naira to the hub because your voucher has covered 70% of the cost. The other one that we do is the hub loans, and that is for hub managers or hub operators in Lagos. We give them access to single digit loans so they can expand their hub capacity. Finally, we also provide access to funding for people who want to take tech trainings in Lagos. So those are our four major interventions, and I think we're proud of the impact that we've gathered over the years. We've issued over 400 vouchers, incubated over 100 startups, and our success stories are out there. Utiva is one of our success stories. Farm is one of our success stories, and a host of other startups in Lagos who have gone on to raise funding both locally and internationally. So I'm quite glad to be here and look forward to engaging with other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akim, for that wonderful introduction. I like the fact that you guys are catering for the founders because these people they go through a lot. I'm sure some of you who are founders here as speaker, you know what I'm talking about. You go through a lot, and to get some discount on what you're doing and a better space for work where you can actually discharge your work at lower, it's really good. Well done, Akim, for what you guys are doing. We're waiting for Grace, but before that, I'm going to introduce my own self. My name is Buki. I'm a presenter for Africa Tech Radio. It's an honor to host this space for Lagos SDG and Invest. And also, I'm delighted to be speaking with each and every one of our speakers, Ayo, Akim, Mr. Sanusi, Josh, Akim, and Daniel. While we're waiting for Grace, I'm looking forward to having great conversation with you on the space. Usually, when it's on my radio show, I like to ask people because technology has really come and changed our life. I mean, the astonishing pace which technology has changed our life. We can't explain it until we start talking about it. So I'll just be pushing out my first question to each and every one of our speakers today. In your personal opinion, I mean, just looking at the rapid development of new technology, talk about Internet of Things, big data, the likes of everything happening in the tech world, how has this changed how you do your work and how you live your life? We can start with Ayo, then Akim, then Mr. Abubakar, Josh, Akim, and Daniel, because this would be like the general question for all of us. Then I'll start sharing my questions to individuals.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I think that we are obviously in a digital age, and as I say to a lot of people and clients especially, that technology adoption, we have moved beyond just adopting or buying technology to actually living in a digital culture era, right? So, and the difference is that it's not just about having technology tools, technology gadgets, technology equipment at work, and all of these things, and you still live your mindset, your culture, your demeanor, and your way of life or work is still driven by primordial or manual or ridiculous type of thinking. the most important part of technology is your ability to live a digital mindset and digital culture. So, for example, for those of us who started working at the time when technology was just evolving, not as much as it is now, we know the difference. There was a time when we would pay for a few of us, very few people had laptops, had desktops in their houses. The majority of us would go and pay a token to use a commercial system or even the internet. Many of us would pay people to open emails for us and all of those things. That was the time when we were all adopting technology. People, the generation who started work before me at some of the few places I worked would share examples. For example, I was at a retreat with a client, one of the founders of these new age banks, and he was recalling, we were sharing our experiences both at KPMG, and he was mentioning how in his time, they took turns to use laptops and all of that. And from an adoption standpoint, that mindset evolved. Adoption increased, and you go to some organizations today, everybody uses laptops, everybody uses collaboration tools, the organization has cloud backups and all of that. Yet the organization is not living digitally. They still have to print out a lot of things on paper to have reviewers review. They still insist on presenteeism. Everybody has to come to work, clock in at 8 o'clock, clock out at 6 o'clock, even when it's not a shop floor, it's not a factory. Even though all of the technology requirements are there and they have adopted it, but they are still not living digital culture, right? This is a digital era, this is a digital age. It has forced a lot of people, even from the baby boomer era, to change the way they think, the way they work, the way they interact, both with subordinates and clients. Um, it's just going to be unnecessarily difficult for you today to still insist on certain traditional ways of doing things in the apparent face of digital. Even government, there's now e-governance, there's now open citizen interaction. As much as many people like to discount that, oh, for example, there's a popular saying that, oh, elections are not won on Twitter. As much as many people would like to discount the impact of digital and technology on governance, we have seen that we have literally seen social media cause revolutions across the world. We have seen government policies, we have seen companies, we issue new policies, we issue new customer strategies. We have seen companies evolve, grow into global movements just from digital and ability from digital strategy. And these include some organizations that are even indigenous to us, right? So, how much more on an individual level? So, for me, technology has truly evolved, changed. I ran a business that was 100% remote up until last year, before we built a physical office space. And even till now, we're still, very much hybrid, and we've been growing. I know several clients who run hybrid or fully remote organizations, and these things would have been a joke or literally impossible about a few decades ago. So yeah, that's to the great extent that I believe that technology has, shaping the way that we think and the way that we work and the way that we live and the way that we interact. Every facet of life, even the dating scene has been disrupted from using technology, transactions, payments, everything, right? And that has a tremendous impact on me and those that are within my primary circle. I hope that has been able to answer your question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ayo. I mean, wrapping it up with our relationship. I mean, even the way they serve breakfast to digital spaces have helped us to spread the gospel so we don't feel alone when we go through heartbreak. And of course, talking about digital mindset, the way the adoption of technology has forced everybody to change our mindset and cause a shift in the way we think and the way we do things, of course, leading to digital culture. Thank you so much for that opinion. Akin, please, what's your opinion on how technology is rapidly changing things around the agricultural sector and how farmers are relating to the new technology?
All right, thanks. So I'm going to use my our case study or our story as my reference point. All right, when we conceived the idea, corporate farmers about 20 years ago. It all started using the power of digitalization. Like Ayo said, I'm going to also relate more to his story. 20 years ago, we didn't have this extent of social media tools that we have today. So if you're more familiar with the way you get news 20 years ago, you have to use, so you get more of your news, more of your gossips via the power of via blog spots. So we have a lot of blog spots those years. Then we have the Linda Ikeji, we have the Bella Ninja, we have all sort of blogs that give you related news and all that. So that was how we started. So we started Corporate Farmers via blog spot, writing research, writing articles for locals and for researchers. That was how we all started. So we were writing our articles and research on Blogspot and posted across because it was free, actually. So we're posting it. So for us, fortunately enough, we got our first fund that was able to appreciate what we were doing, contributing to the ecosystem. Good enough over the years, that same blog spot called, if you can still check it out, it's still there, corporatefarmers.blogs across the country. And at least we can say we are one of the top 10 agribusiness companies today in Nigeria. So that was the power of digitalization for us, and that started our story. So if you now bring it down to the agribusiness sector today, we have a whole lot of digital tools that has been created by majorly from the younger agripreneurs to make the work of our farmers more efficient. So I'm going to make it very simple so that I won't go into complex detail. So I'm going to start with simple tools. For example, just one plot of land. You must ensure that you have a ready market. So a ready market means that it could be one Yasidi very close to your street that sells, I'm going to use vegetable as my case study, that sells probably vegetable or probably that sells tatashi or that sells ugu. That's a common veggies we all know. And that is what you do. So the market is the first element or the first concept you must first of all consider before going into agribusiness, before you even start cultivation at all. So today, agribusiness has been so complex that we now have digital solutions that brings both the buyer, okay, and the seller together on one platform. So it means that once your product is ready for harvest, you upload your product on a digital software, okay, and that informs your market, your community, that look, my vegetables are ready for harvest. It's going to be XYZ tons, XYZ bags at this price, at this rate, fresh. So once your community get that information, they come to your farm gate and picks it up. That is the power of digitalization. So it brings both buyers and sellers together, together to buy fresh agri-produce at one spot. That is one. Then two, today we're all aware of transportation sector, how Uber and Bolt has transformed the entire agricultural ecosystem. The same way it has also transformed the agri sector. Today, we have solutions that have been created whereby with the press of a button, you can actually order or place requests of a tractor to work on your farm. So it means that you don't have to buy a tractor. All you need to do is just to order for a tractor near close to you, and they'll come to your farm and work on your field, regardless of the size of the farm or what exactly you want to do at that point in time, either in terms of region, in terms of land preparation or whatever it is. So that also is a tool that has been created using the power of digitalization and technology to make work of the farmer easier. That is two. Then three, normally if you want to go into agriculture, if you want to start planting, for a farmer, the first element you need to consider is the soil. The soil is a major element that determines your final output. That's your harvest, and that is why you see farmers in the UK, in the UK, majorly in Europe, and also in Canada and Israel, they don't joke with their soil scientists. Reason because the elements, the composition of your soil determines the final output you will get. And that's why you see fertilizers, in different formations, NPK 15, or whatever it is, that helps the plant to germinate well. So today we have digital solutions that help farmers to just examine the composition that meets the exact composition of a particular commodity you want to plant on your soil. If it does not meet that composition, definitely you have to add more nutrients to the soil before you start planting at all. And before now, what our fathers normally do is that they just determine, it's all dependent on the level of rain. If their instinct tells them that okay, the rain is going to fall so day and the soil is going to be good on so day, then they can begin to plant. So they work with instinct then. But today, with the power of science and technology, it's easy for you to determine, number one, the components of the soil. Then two, also you can also determine the level of water you would need, to grow a particular plant, throughout its harvest season. So those are elements, or those are things that technology has been able to provide for us and make the work of our farmers more easy and more efficient. And now let me now take you to livestock production. So for livestock production, one of the things that affected farmers that into livestock production majorly for poultry farmers is inability to determine the weather condition of their birds. So today we have temperature control measures, or mechanism or gadgets that alarms you. It's just like when you're sick and you go to the hospital, they check your temperature, they put that thing under your armpit, they tell you, oh, you are too hot, oh, you are too cold. So today we have such gadgets for the, I don't know what it's called exactly, unless I ask some of my friends. So that you can install on your farm, on your poultry farm. So when the sun is too hot, and probably when it's too hot for your birds, it gives you an impromptu on your phone for you to quickly probably on the fan or provide alternative cooling system for your birds so that they don't die and you'll be asking yourself what's the cost, and you know what that is. And these are things that basically are climate factors, but can also be controlled through the power of technology and sciences. So that is what technology has done for the agricultural ecosystem. And one unique thing is that these solutions are not expensive. They are very affordable and they are very efficient. And that's one thing I keep telling people. I say, look, technology doesn't have to be expensive before it's efficient. For example, your WhatsApp tool or your WhatsApp solution on your phone is a simple marketable platform for you to sell your product to anybody around the world. Your social media tools, your Twitter, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, these are Facebooks. These are solutions or tools that have been provided to help you take your product to everywhere around the world. So today is easier for you to market your fish, for export to anywhere, probably in Australia or to Belgium or to the UK. So that is what technology has done for the agricultural ecosystem. And we know that sector is quite risky, but definitely with technology, we're able to do so much more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Akin. Thank you for that passionate opinion around technology, and of course, also giving us insight on how we can utilize WhatsApp for marketing. Really, really great ways that technology is reshaping the agricultural sector. Mr. Abubakar, please, would you like to give us your opinion on the development of the new technology around what you do?
Yeah, thank you. So apparently, I wasn't really born in Nigeria. So I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Born in Germany, grew up in Saudi Arabia, and I saw firsthand technology like compared to where we are here today. Saudi Arabia grew up with the use of artificial intelligence in a very massive way. And coming to Nigeria, I was like, okay, so apparently we have a long way to go. But yet, I believe that the technology that we see today, especially around us here, Lagos is one of the fastest growing cities in terms of technology, like enhancing technology for our ecosystem. Like we're one of the fastest growing African cities, and that has given us the opportunity to exploit some certain, features, for example, okay, across different industries. So, in our own case, just to make it short, in our own case at Jupiter, we believe that the future of fashion can be more simpler and easier than it is today with traditional fashion. Okay, so we have people, spend a lot of money buying garments, then cutting half of them down just to create a design. You cut off like 60%, and the remaining 40% is what you use to create, this outfit. And sometimes some people will come and get the outfits to put them on. They will still complain that okay, this outfit is not good enough, it's too long, it's too short, too tight. too wide, all that kind of stuff. And we were like, okay, instead of putting people through this whole scenario, this trouble, why don't we just use technology to manifest these things? Okay, and using virtual reality, 3D animation, of course, that's the beginning thing, the first thing to start with, 3D animation, virtual reality, and everything beyond. So right now in Africa, it's a bit hard to comprehend all that because people are like, what is the essence of going for a digital wear when I can just buy any clothes I like, physical one, put it on, and we are saying, okay, we have, like, for example, in Europe, we have people complaining about how global warming, how fashion is causing a lot of problems in terms of global warming with the fuel used to manufacture clothes, then burning clothes that are no more used, fabrics or garments that are no more useful, burning them, another one. So people are trying to scale down global warming, that especially that is coming from fashion. And so that's why we have people saying, okay, instead of that, how about we just create a digital wear whereby you can just put on this digital wear, attend conferences virtually. For example, we have one of the largest digital fashion titans called DressX. What do DressX do? Like, they create digital wear. So, for example, I might go to an event dressed in black, black suit, black, black tie, everything. But when I want to share my picture of the event, I might take a selfie, convert the actual wear that I put on during the event into a different one, into a digital wear. It will fit into my body. It will look as realistic as the one I was putting on before, but this is a different way. It could be an Ankara or any other way. It could be white and black with different colors, and then I'll post it on social media. And people will say, oh, this brand, I love this brand. What is it? Is it like, where do you got it from? Who sold it? And you tell them that, okay, this is a digital way, actually. It's not a physical one. People will be like, okay, how is that possible? And you're like, well, that is what digital fashion is all about. And so, just to cut it short, we believe that in 2030, digital fashion might be taking over in a massive scale. It might still take a while in Africa, but worldwide, it might be, it will be rapidly replacing traditional fashion because it makes things easier. We're not saying that traditional fashion will not exist at all, but before traditional fashion, that is before sewing a cloth or anything or buying an outfit, people might first of all go for the digital version before the physical version. And I'm glad that we are one of the first in Africa to at least step into that niche. And well, we hope to see how it goes till then.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Because while you were talking, I'm just thinking of the popular Lagos Balogun market. If we have like an option where you can digitally check out the clothes before trying it on. I remember, is it Primark or one of those big fashion brands house? They have this avatar where it's going to shape your body. It's going to take an image, a photo, instant photo of you. Then the avatar will be shaped to your body size, your body mass, and all of that stuff. So there's no need to try on so many clothes when your avatar can just do that for you. So I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, I would love to see that in Lagos Balogun Market. Thank you, Mr. Abubakar. So, Josh, please, do you have a quick one to share with us? Then, after Josh, please, Akim, you don't need to wait for me. You can go ahead and also serve us your opinion around new technology.
Thank you so much. Credit to everyone who has spoken so far. I think like what I'm going to do is just dwell majorly around healthcare and education, which I'm really very passionate about. Before COVID, we knew that transforming education would take us to start leveraging digital tools, and then COVID-19 actually made us see the importance of actually leveraging digital tools for education itself. So one of the first things I would really want to say is that for Lagos State, we need to find a way to ensure that we make education more accessible for people, especially for children from vulnerable backgrounds, people who ordinarily would not be able to go to school. I know that the next question would be how would they be able to afford internet, how would they be able to afford data to be able to learn, or the mobile phone. But with the way technology is growing, I know that there are mobile phones, this like these touchlight phones that you can actually use for learning, and then there are lots of children who just having access to these learning platforms alone can actually be very transformational for them. And it's also just looking at the aspects of our higher our higher institutions. We all know that the Lagos State University, the Lagos State Polytechnic, and even the University of Lagos can barely take about 100,000 young people every year. So, and then in a population that has about 25 million people, and say 60 to 70% of them are under the age of 35, it means that a lot of people would need to get into the higher institution. And if they cannot get there, we need to find a way to use technology to bridge that learning gap. And it's also looking at that aspect of being able to take control of young learners who would actually not want to go through the university system themselves, like they are done with their secondary school and they feel like the next thing I want to do is I want to learn a craft. I want to be able to have a like they'll say a handwork, and technology can be this bridge for them to acquire this learning in whether it's in carpentry, whether it's in fashion designing, just name it. So with technology itself, we can create this learning platform for young people to be able to acquire skills and for them to grow as young professionals. And the next part would be around healthcare. We know that in Nigeria, healthcare is kind of a luxury. And I remember that during COVID, the government tried to set up a telemedicine service. I can't remember the name right now, Eco something, Eco Med or so. And this was to ensure that people are able to actually have access to doctors, to prescription without being able to visit the hospital. And I feel like this is a really good innovation. That way it also helps break the high cost of being able to regularly increase or furnish healthcare services, healthcare institutions in Lagos State. And there are countries like Mexico where telemedicine service has really thrived. And I know that even in the US and in the UK, telemedicine is one go-to innovation right now, and it's something that we can use in Lagos to be able to ensure that people are able to have access to healthcare services that would not break the bank for them. Sometimes people just want to hear a doctor say this is a prescription or this is what is wrong with you. It's different from what you googled, and that way it would save them from self-medication. So I for technology itself in Lagos, I would say that being able to leverage technology and telemedicine as a way to make healthcare accessible to people is really really very important. And also leverage and also creating e-learning platforms for young people to be able to gain skills that would help them grow in their career, earn an income, and then beat the cycle of poverty in their family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for that. Akin, please, quick run up your opinion around new technology in your sector.
Thank you very much. I think that in terms of new technology, especially with the emergence of digital technology and its impact both economically and also in the role of accountability of government, I think it is something that we have even as government we have come to accept, we have come to live with, and it has really forced government to go back to the drawing table to see how can we support. Just like a colleague of mine was saying, government's primary activity is to protect, is to safeguard. So initially, the introduction of technology was something that the government always tried to kick against because it went against the principle of protecting what you have. But I think now the government is now open to embracing technology, to supporting the sector. I know some weeks ago we heard that NITDA has created the policy and is embracing blockchain technology. Even Mr. Governor came out to say that this administration is also in support of blockchain technology. So this means that in the aspect of government, we are understanding that technology is a means to economic prosperity. It is the future, and what we can do is to support it. And supporting it would not only help economically to create jobs, because you can imagine an exponential effect of supporting four unicorns in a country, you can imagine how many jobs would be created. Now, imagine if we supported 10 unicorns in Lagos, for example. And also, government is also being put on its toes more because, like someone said, the advent of social media has made accountability move to the forefront of governments. We all don't have to wait to get a memo on any office in government. You can always get information and also call out your representatives or call out your public servants. Social government understands the role that technology plays in economic prosperity, in fighting unemployment, in achieving sustainable development goals, and the government now has no other role than to support that growth, and to ensure that regulation around that sector protects citizens, but and also ensures that nobody is left behind. And also, governance is also put on its toes in terms of accountability, in terms of crisis along. Yeah. So, a lot of government is welcome, and our work is welcome. Thank you.
Much, Akim. I'll be throwing out my questions, but because of time, I'll be sharing some questions to some particular people, and of course, some other questions directed to others. Of course, we'll also open the space for everyone who has joined the Twitter space. In case you have a question, just signify by raising up your hand, and we'll grant access for your speakers to be on, and you can ask the speakers questions, guys. I'm not the only one that's going to be throwing out questions here. If you have an opinion or you disagree with anything being said here, you can raise that with the speakers, and of course, let's talk, because Lagos is listening to us, and we are all part of the sustainable development goals. Daniel, sorry, I think I missed you. Please quickly give us your opinion around new technology. How has it changed things around you, your day to day, what you do? How has new technology impacted your life so far?
So I think the first thing for me it would be onboarding into tech. I think back in the day, this is say I'm not very new to this thing, to the tech thing, but I'm also not very old. I've been doing this for say 7 8 years, yeah. And at the time, as at 7 years ago, I think it was very different. Like trying to get the hang of like what happens in like the tech scene. I don't even think the word tech scene was a or the statement tech scene was even a thing, right? At the time, you were either moving resources between flash drives, or you're learning something from, say, YouTube, or someone has to give you a PDF of something to learn, right? And at the time, it was like, it wasn't this trendy. I mean, if you were like a tech person, right? Well, why you're a big boy, it's like it wasn't like a quote unquote global. It wasn't as crazy. The craze wasn't as much as what it is now. So I mean, I think just on that note, I can say like technology has really like advanced you, if you get what I mean. Say now people can like go to just about any website and find information, right? Google wasn't what it is now at the time, and you would see that this has happened over time. For every year, that like every new year, there is something new, right? If it wasn't crypto you were talking about something close to AI. I think the AI, artificial intelligence thing, has even advanced. I mean, that's what it's supposed to do, right? So it has advanced over the years. I mean, if you're talking about tech in back in the days, you'll be talking about building websites and building systems or core banking applications for banks, right? But now you're talking about different products and ecosystems and all of that. Just that alone is one brilliant change I've seen. I think we even some just dive a little bit into the entertainment scene, right? I think as at the time, if you're an upcoming artist, how do you get your songs to like the mainstream media? You have to like go to guys like Ninja Loaded or not just OK.com. I mean, people still do that, but now there is Spotify. Fancy things, very fancy things. There's Spotify, YouTube Music. We're subscribing to listen to music. Meanwhile, back in those days, I can remember I had like it was a thing to brag about. You have like a directory of different musics. People, DJs will have like memory card filled with different types of songs and mixtapes, and Now everyone is doing online. If you don't have internet, you can't play music. I mean, things have really, really changed. Or you go to, say, games, right? Mobile games and things like that, where like, there was a point in my life where like um 10 MB was enough to download thousands of games. But now I can't get any game for 10 MB. You get like things have really changed. And if you come into like my own space, which is the financial space, I mean there's something fancy like fintech now. Back in the days, what is fintech? It's bank, right? I mean, and you see that there's been a trend, like things have changed over time. As at like 80s, 1980s, 1970s, if you don't walk into the bank, you cannot transact, right? Coming down to the 2000s, right? I think in 20, I can't remember when, but before 2007, ATMs became a thing. So you don't have to walk into the bank to withdraw cash, right? You can walk to an ATM machine and withdraw your cash. Coming down to 2017, people started adapting to mobile applications. There were fancy things like payments gateways and solutions, Paystack, InterSuite, all of these guys. Coming down to like 2017 and above, like there's now like an omni-channel type of thing. So now you have USSD for banking, you have mobile apps, you have ATMs, you have several channels of transacting, and I feel like say 10 years, 20 years from now, I don't even think technology has stopped or will stop anytime soon in terms of like the financial space, both the fintech space and the traditional banks. I don't think technology is halting anytime soon. I think in some more technologically advanced places, they're already adapting AI, like where I don't need to. I mean, something a machine learning tool can like learn my spending behavior and suggest things for me. I'm in a new city, it can suggest where I can spend less, or I can get affordable things according to my lifestyle or whatnot. I think we've not seen like the end of technology yet, especially in the fintech side. If we think downloading, if I mean, just think of it, think very well, right? If we thought the highest or the largest file we could download as per a game before was say 2 MB, or I don't think any game got to 2 MB at the time, right? Imagine what, and I mean, we have games of 100 and something megabytes today, right? Imagine what it would be like in years to come. We probably won't be playing on mobile devices again. I mean, there's already virtual reality. So, come on. I mean, I think technology hasn't halted. It won't halt anytime soon. I think it will keep shaping our lives as we. It just depends on our ability to adapt, to constantly adapt. Yeah, every time. Yeah.
Lifestyle. Thank you for that opinion. I mean, even touching on our lifestyle, it's been greatly changed by technology. Right now, you don't even need to be driving around Lagos looking for where to just turn up. It's Friday. All you just have to do is tap on your phones, go on your laptop, and voila, you have list and options. Even in the fintech industry, like you mentioned, there are options for transaction and simplified options, actually. Really great stuff. Shooting straight into the conversation of the day, because we are talking about how we can harness technology for sustainable development. And this is coming off the UN Sustainable Development Goals for the 2030 agenda, but Lagos has broken it down to 17. And I think we are on goal 9, looking at industry, innovation, and infrastructure. A lot of infrastructure going on in Lagos right now. So I'm going to be directing this question to Akin, Ayo, and of course, Akim. Akin and Ayo. Akin talked about the weather, the climate. This, of course, affects the environment, and of course, creating a good working space also, which was a point hammered by Akim, and Ayo, of course, having a digital mindset. So, how can technology be used to promote environmental sustainability in Lagos? So, what are some innovative ways that you think that technology can be harnessed to promote environmental sustainability in Lagos?
All right, thank you. Okay, so for me, yeah, it's always about the future. Okay, and the future is now. So number one for me, there needs to be 100% knowledge So when I mean knowledge, it means that the generation we are now needs to understand, needs to have, or needs to be equipped on how technology can help solve problems. Okay, either environmental, either ecological, and especially if it's food. Okay, and that is a paramount thing that I keep telling people anywhere I go to, that once you have knowledge, embedded in you, it's easier for you to solve problems even as it comes within several sectors, especially Lagos, that we have a daily growing population. So for the food sector, for example, where I play actively in, climate crisis has been a challenge, okay, that have disrupted the food chain over the years. We saw what happened last year, where we have excess of rain damage a lot of farmlands in the north. And this year again, we begin to gather red flags that look, we're going to have far way bigger of what we have last year compared to this year. So the question is, how can we prepare ourselves enough when these things happen? And the only thing that we can do, number one, is to educate, for me, our farmers and majorly stakeholders around the food chain system. Okay, what time do you need to plant? Where do you need to plant? At what rate do you need to plant? What water would you need to plant? Do you need to plant at this place? Do you need to avoid such places? These are informations, or what we call precision informations, that would help solve these problems when it comes. And that's why today we are championing what we call the urban farm city, okay, whereby as an urban system, as an urban community like Lagos, how can we begin to champion food security, even regardless that we have over 21 million population, that Lagos can feed itself, and also encourage the younger generation to see how they can feed itself using what you have around you, your bucket, your tire, your small space, can be a way whereby you can actually plant and produce what you eat. But it starts from knowledge, education. This is the first and the major tool that is needed to champion climate crisis or climate issue when it comes around. That's my point.
All right, thank you. Ayo, please, you can speak. The question is, what are some innovative ways by which technology can be harnessed to promote environmental sustainability in Lagos? So, what are innovative ways you'd like Lagos to take a direction into?
Okay, thanks again. I think that environmental sustainability, I like to reduce concepts to the realities of our environment. I can't remember who was talking and was talking about growing up in outside the country and how he came back and realized that we were so far apart in our evolution.
That was Mr. Abubakar.
Okay, so I mean the same thing applies here. So we speak a lot of these things, they sound like fancy English, and if you are not deliberate about breaking them down to our reality, environmental sustainability is very big, to be honest. So let's reduce it to specific examples or scenarios. We don't have clean water. We have a waste problem. We have a pollution problem, a noise pollution problem, and all sorts of things that degrade our environment on a daily basis. I mean, so some of these basic things probably explain why some of our leaders, including all the candidates at that time, who were even making points as though something that was as though Africa should not be having conversations around climate conversations, all those kind of things. They're just trying to say that look, we have a lot of basic problems that if we are to reduce this big fancy English around sustainability to those basics, what do we do? And I'll give you examples. So number one, you have a waste problem, right? And you see why I love Africa's problems is that the world has sort of provided solutions to a lot of these problems. The average developed country is about maybe 500 years ahead, or 100, 200 years ahead. So you don't even need to be a disruptor or an ultra innovator before you can, adopt tech to solve some of these things. So you have a waste problem, and at the same time, you have a tremendously excruciating poverty problem, right? Countries that do not have so much high poverty problems are paying people for recycling waste products, right? So why not just do the same thing, right? Why not adopt technology to encourage people to gather these wastes and put them in a, why not create waste centers, for example, across multiple hubs? And I think that we've tried to do that. Lagos State has tried to do that, but it wasn't digitally driven. So let's have waste collection centers powered by technology that people can drive their waste into. People can pick up waste from different places, drive to those places, dump those waste in exchange for a token. I know that several private sector initiatives also do this. In Bagada, there is a waste collection center where you can drop your waste and it accumulates and you get gifts in turn. So I think that it is scalability of these things that now need to be done. So government needs to open such centers, use technology to gather the data of those who come and dump waste, and in exchange for some peanuts, I can assure you it would have some sort of impact. You do not have access to, okay, you have a pollution problem, for example. What's the solution to a pollution problem? What types of pollution do we have? We have noise pollution from traffic, from churches, from all of especially churches, religious houses, and factories and all of that. Let's use religious houses for example. What we currently do is we are largely reactive. So we wait till people complain and then we go and either shut them down or you write to them and all of that, right? So why not deploy a technology platform where citizens can essentially complain about noise pollution from whatever source that is happening, and then you aggregate this data to what's it called now, to respond to some of this noise pollution. Why not also proactively begin to license or regulate noise generating infrastructure or centers to so percentage of or so pollution per mile. I don't know how to do it, but so for example, there should be one church maybe per community or something, or there should be one factory per, and then you have the hubs for some of these things, right? And then you also have further regulation that defines what type of speakers you should have. And I know that some of these things exist in Lagos, but it is now leveraging technology to aggregate feedback, or even proactively, whistleblow if you see that one is already being opened in an area that is going to lead to pollution. Look at infrastructure, for example. Because of the madness in the way that we drive and our traffic control mechanisms, everybody resorts to everybody's honking even when it is not necessary, right? Everybody's screaming at each other. So clearly, we I tell people that Nigeria is poor on data, but we collect so much data that the way we measure our poverty in data may not even be as bad, because there is actually a lot of data that is being collected from the average Nigerian, especially in Lagos. We just are not probably utilizing it sufficiently. So if we have a noise pollution problem, again, root cause, you have to look at why. Okay, number one, we do not have sufficient infrastructure. We do not have sufficient road infrastructure. So that may not be necessarily technology, but why not, immediately accelerate the process of developing these these are rail networks, right? And then while that is going on, what are we doing with ensuring that Lagos has working traffic? What are those things called? Traffic infrastructure. Most of our traffic lights do not work. We do not have sufficient road marks that distinguishes where to turn, where not to turn, where to honk, where not to honk. We have our public transport regulation that is essentially controlled predominantly by touts and quote and unquote street urchins, right? And these guys create so much chaos that you have to end up honking. And trust me, you do not want to know how bad pollution to our environment is from car honking and noise until you have a Zoom meeting on the phone, and you have to then God forbid, not use your AC. Even when you use your AC, at the next minute there is blazing here and there, and especially you are meeting with foreigners and they'll be like, hey, what's going on there, are you safe? It's so bad. So there are so many things that we can begin to proactively look at how to use technology to reduce some of these things. So you can see clearly that you have to even first solve for how you regulate how you control your traffic system, right? You need to first take off the street urchins that constitute a menace on the road. You need to use the LASMA, the Kai, and the other guys to maintain sanity. And I think we were very close to it under Fashola. Lagos has these things in place. It's just the execution. Because I know that if you beat traffic offense in certain places, the camera can actually capture your number and you get the text message. But what is the scalability of it? Where most of the street lights are not even working. How can that technology then work, right? We need a lot more regulation around where should you honk, where should you not honk, what type of cars should go into certain places. For example, you see people dying every day in Ojuelegba. And I'm tired of recording trucks that are clearly environmental hazards, right? Hazard risks moving around. Why can I not have a platform where I take that picture, I upload it to that platform, and immediately Lagos State government, clamps down on the company that owns that truck or on the truck itself? It seems there is just doesn't seem to be sufficient political will to make some of these things happen. So yeah, these are ways that technology can be used, and there are so many, many, many other areas. There's water. We do not have water because we do not have water and sufficient public infrastructure. You see people polluting the open defecation is tremendously high in Lagos, right? So there are people. I have a guy in my community that is building this sort of environmentally friendly public toilets, right? Again, these things are there. It is government harnessing the individuals or private sector groups that are doing these things to drive it at scale. So, how can we then, harmonize, provide sufficient funding, work with the international community to do some of these things at scale, provide it at densely populated centers, reduce open defecation, build platforms that can collect information on areas that has so citizens can report areas that, because government will not see everything, on areas that have the highest rate of environmental hazard or environmental pollution or environmental issues, and collect real-time intelligent data and proactively respond to those needs as the case may be. I mean, the truth is that to get us out of where we are, out of the dungeon or the hole that we are in from an environmental standpoint, it's going to take a lot more than the business and usual approach that we use, and we're going to have to leverage a lot of technology to do some of these things. And these are just a few examples that I've given, but I'm sure other speakers will have a whole lot more. I'll yield the mic now. Thanks.
I wanted to respond to what Ayo just said, because last week we also talked about decent work. We handled the goal 8, and previous before last week we handled a conversation around climate and of course the environment, which you talked about waste management and of course how Lagos can handle pollution. I also let you talk because you also have some support. I mean, this is an environmental question, and you're being a great observant, and of course, also letting government or Lagos State know exactly some of the steps they can take to harness the environment and make it sustainable for each and every one of us who are in Lagos. Thank you so much for that. Daniel, okay, go on, say something. You wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. First of all, the contribution. I think just some he made like some very good points, right? And I think something on my mind is Lagos has so many things. I think over like the years we've seen like Lagos try to roll out or even roll out some solid technology infrastructure. I mean, very recently there's like the electric vehicles and all of that. But I think one problem we have like in Lagos is just maintenance, right? You see, every time something comes up, I worry that like there will be like a bad maintenance culture. We've seen it in some in BRTs. When BRTs came out, I mean, if you see, you can see what like most BRTs are like today. The red buses, you say, oh, these are the ones going to Oshodi, and like there's like some stereotype amongst buses. Do you get? And like there's also blue buses, and those are I think the ones that go all the way to Ikorodu, right? And I mean, you've seen like they partnered with Kauri to introduce cards, and aside maintenance, it's like there is not just enough, or there's not like enough buses for the masses, right? And yeah, I think yeah, maintenance culture in Lagos can be improved on. I think the other thing I was just going to ask is, I've thought about it. In fact, sometime in 2018, I thought about like how can we make, because whether we like it or not, we cannot do without I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we can do without Danfo today, right? A good percentage of Lagosians would rather sit in a public transport vehicle, like public vehicle, than order an Uber or something, and that's for obvious reasons, right? The question now is how exactly can we digitalize like that area? I mean, we've seen it done in blue buses, right? Like with the introduction of Cowrie. Now, the question is it that I don't know if it's NURTW now, right? I don't know who we should be talking to, but why can't like technology go in there? I've thought about it. I mean, we saw like the cashless thing made me realize that it's actually possible because some conductors began taking transfers, right? And transfer is even, for me, is even slow. Why can't like we work towards faster methods of like introducing technology? And you would argue that most of these guys, a good percentage of these guys are not very learned. I think there are so many of them that are also learned, right? But we as Lagosians we adapt, right? As humans we adapt. I'm not sure why for so many years technology is advancing and it keeps advancing, but it seems like that particular area is a no-go area. We cannot just do anything digital there. That's what it seems like to me. I'm not sure who would answer this question, but yeah.
I mean, Daniel, you just shot me straight into the next question because I was supposed to ask about technology, how we can use it to improve transportation, and that obviously that seems to be a question bugging you because when you look around,
Mhm.
since after this cash crunch situation, you've just had a rethink towards transportation and all of that stuff. So, what would you advise that Lagos look into? Because when you talk about cashless payments, some of the BRTs now you don't need to tender money. You just have to get your card registered and have some amount loaded up so you can recharge and use at the bus station. So in regards to downfall and other conversation that you raised up, so what do you think that Lagos can do, or what type of technology can they harness to improve transportation and mobility in Lagos?
Yeah, I mean,
And of course, don't forget this has to be accessible to all
to
residents.
everyone,
You
yeah.
know, not everybody. Yeah.
So I think I was thinking about it today and just bouncing ideas off a friend, and I'm like, why can't we have a mix of everything really? Because guess what? The person that sells pepper to me, right? She started taking transfers. I never thought that would happen in my life, right? That person started taking transfers. Some people still use USSD to transact. So what I mean by having a mix of everything is why can't there be a mix of both hardware? I mean hardware and software. So by hardware, things like Cowrie, they can partner with people that's their like specialty. I think they're over time we've seen guys like Shotlers and some other like transport companies also try to go into that space, but I don't know how well it's working for them. But it seems like just going back to like the manual way of doing things is always wins. So I'm thinking, why can't we have like a mix of everything, right, and slowly integrate it into the society? So we have like going from the angle of transfers. If you can't make a transfer, then maybe we can just create a system for just specifically for Danfo. Create a system that you can either we go invest in hardware, where like something like Cowrie, where you can tap something and it pays, right? Or you can allow if that's too advanced, then many people today use USSD. All of these things are possible, right? But my only issue is adaptation. Like all these things are possible. It's just that Lagosians would rather say, no, I want cash. But you see what this cash crunch did. People didn't have an option. I think sometimes we should actually like be very aggressive about some certain things in Lagos. I don't know. I think we've been too relaxed on that end. I think we can again just to answer your question. I think we can have a mix of everything and see a way to slowly integrate it. I don't know if the I might be reaching here, but I don't know if the NERTW or people like responsible for or people that govern the entire Danfo and transport system. I don't know if they have like sessions or meetings that include everybody. You know what we do in like most fancy companies these days. We have monthly performance reviews. We have weekly performance stand-ups in some more technical teams. I don't know if they have things like that. I might be reaching here, but I don't know if they have things like this that sensitizes both the drivers, the conductors, everyone. I feel like it's just go out there, transport, bring us our daily earning, and that's all. I don't know. I might be wrong, but yeah, just have a mix of everything. Find a way to adapt. Find a way to integrate to with not just the masses, but also the people
All
that pay.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Anyone in the space that would like to share any idea or opinion in regards to how technology can be used to improve transportation? I mean, if there's anyone listening that also have an idea that would like to share with Lagos, Lagos is listening. I'm going to be directing my next question to Mr. Abubakar, of course. I mean, all the way from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria, you must have actually experienced quite a bit of shift, and you wish that some things could have actually been happening around you. So now let's look at policies. What are some policies that you thought was working over there that, if we actually adapt to it, might work for us here?
First of all, we don't have a. I'm not trying to criticize anyone, okay? I respect our Nigerian government and the work they're doing. They are trying to the best of their abilities, so all credit to them. But we don't, like, for example, if we try to enforce a policy, like we create a policy, okay, we pass to the Senate, it's presented to the people, and yet we don't stick to it, okay. So, for example, like the person who mentioned the traffic, Mr. Ayo, who talked about the traffic, for example, like in Saudi Arabia, example, just like in Saudi Arabia and the US and other European countries, we have the, traffic lights. So when it is red, everyone stays put. When it is green, everyone moves. No one turns, to the left angle. No one goes and pass the traffic to, some people like, I mean, I base in the island, so I see it very frequently. Someone will just get to the traffic and he will just supersede the pole, and he'll be like between the line and a bit half forward, half backward. Yet not there will be no consequences whatsoever. So if we have the technology to enforce certain policies, which we know that breaking these policies or disregarding these policies might cause actual harm, so there can be like penalties, for example. So in Nigeria here, we don't take our policies seriously. That's one thing. Sometimes we do enforce them, but most of the times we don't. So, like for example, like defecating in certain areas is not allowed. Any defecating out of the house is not allowed in the first place. But we are where we are, so that's just the reality. But if we then say, okay, for example, like as I said, here in the island, for example, if I'm walking within Lucky Phase One or anywhere, I don't want to be specific, but any areas, you can see someone will be pressed, and the person will be like, okay, there is this soccer way, and the person will just stand and and ease himself, which is not allowed. So when we are talking about environmental, trying to shape and try to take care of our environmental, ecosystem, then we have to have policies that goes against these acts or behaviors. Of course, now you say, okay, like, are we going to be policing people around? Like, are we going to be putting? Do we have securities monitoring? We don't need securities. There's what we call CCT cameras. Okay, so for example, in Saudi Arabia, in every area, at every block, there's CC camera. There, we have the government monitoring it. These CC cameras too can be AI driven. Okay, there are certain patterns set to the city cameras. Okay, when the camera sees this action, it is a violation. Is this? Is that? It will, it's with machine learning. So you are training the technology to identify certain errors, certain behavior, certain patterns, and give them a feedback. So then they will take actions. This is not only against, like, we're not just only talking about catching people, arresting people. Also, for example, like accident, when there's an accident that happens in the middle of the highway or something like that, people pass by, no one gets down to help. And I understand everyone has a place to be. Some people are not in a position to help in any way possible. Okay, then perhaps you might then call the government, call the agencies to come and intervene, take care of the situation. But we are living in a situation whereby everyone will pull out their phones and start recording, drop them on social media, get some hype. Some people are doing it for a good reason, to get attention as much as they can. I mean, to pass information as far as they can. But some people, just to gain more traction. So If we had an AI system that can indicate certain videos, for example, like an accident happening, and then this AI system will direct to the government, okay, an accident is happening, it's already trending on Twitter, for example, this is the situation at this time, at this area, then we have the government there, right? When a trailer is trying to take, shortcuts to navigate their way through to deliver fuel somewhere, and the trailer collapses in a bad area, then what happens? The trailer explodes, and when it explodes, of course, a lot of people get affected. So, can we monitor this thing? Can we take care of it? We can with the use of artificial intelligence. We just need the government to be more serious and like more interested in it rather than just neglecting it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think we're all directing back to transportation also, which is quite very important to the environment. I mean, it's the way by which we go through our day-to-day life. And I'm going to be throwing this next question to Joshua, because when you look at our sustainable goals, it's supposed to have inclusion of the elderly, marginalized group, women also, and we're looking at opportunity and access, digital access for these people. Being somebody who has also been an ambassador to the youth SDG, how do we ensure that this marginalized group like women, the elderly, and people with disability have equal access to digital technology opportunities? Considering the work that you've also done in the past, how can we accentuate that into the future?
Thank you so much. The first thing I would say is that inclusion has to be like when we're designing policies. First is we need to make sure that in our desire to design policies that they are geared towards our specific needs. Usually, one of the things I notice is that when it comes to Lagos or Nigeria as a whole, inclusion is actually the last thing on our minds when we go about creating policies or we're creating programs for people. And we're not asking ourselves how will the elderly be able to use this service, how will they be able to access or gain um, be able to gain to be able to use a particular product. So for the first thing we have to do is that in our design thinking, inclusion has to be the first thing we think about. So if we're bringing out this product, how would somebody who is blind, somebody who is deaf, how would that person or somebody who is having issues with mobility be able to use this service? It's really very important. So we need to make sure that tools that are accessible are things that will bring into play in ensuring that people are able to access digital technology in Lagos. Another thing I would really want to bring up is this issue of training. We first need to understand that people who are old people are most of them do not even know how technology works. So we need to have this conscious effort to go into training, providing training services, providing support services to people who are marginalized, people who do not even know how to use digital technology. I remember one time I worked on a program just to be able to provide internet facility to a old people's home in Jibo Yaba. And when we went to the Lagos State government then to say this is what we want to do, the first question was why do you want to why do you want to bring in internet access and computers to people who are living in these old people's homes? And I'm like, they are people too. They need to understand how technology works. They need to understand how to use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is not just reading something and forwarding. WhatsApp is a whole lot. They need to understand these things. They need to understand how they can be able to send emails. They need to understand how they can even volunteer online for some courses, because most times these people, when people get older, we forget them. But via access to internet infrastructure, it provides them with an opportunity to be able to discover the new world around them. So emphasis on providing training, providing support to them, empowering them with the knowledge that they need to be able to discover the wonderful world that the internet has opened up to all of us is really very important. Another thing I would say with is actually this issue of partnerships and trying to collaborate with NGOs, community-based organization to actually address the specific needs or the specific challenges faced by marginalized groups, and then try to find how we can create this inclusive environment to support them. Sometimes when COVID happened between 2020 and 2021, one of the things I did and with my organization was we found out that there was this community somewhere in Yaba that is you have these people who are suffering from different diseases. They are lepers there. There are people who are blind. It's just this very old community. And when I went there, one of the first things I thought about was, wow, people live here close to they didn't have like good water. They did not have they had power, but the funny part was that they didn't have good water. And then they had children there. They had young people who didn't know what to do. And the first thing I thought about was, what if these people we can create access to internet for them, be able to get in computers for them to just learn how to get access to digital, understand what digital technology is all about, and how this can help them beyond just waking up to just play around or ride bikes and the like. So all of these things is just we as a people trying to design policies that would ensure that the people around us can be able to try, because it is very very important. And one of the things I've realized about Nigeria is that we try to look at, okay, what's happening in the UK, what's happening in the US, what kind of policies do they have, not understanding that the way these people go about policy making is trying to find out what is this problem, how is it unique to us, how can we provide a solution that is need specific to the challenges that we are facing. So if we can approach um, inclusion that way, it makes it possible for people who are marginalized to feel appreciated, to know that hey, the government is thinking about us. If, for instance, most people cannot even understand how to use the ATM machine, for instance. And then when we're talking about going cashless, we're asking, can people really know how to use every one of these things? Can they be able to really use this star 1, 2, 3 that we are saying? How can we be able to create support programs for them to understand how to even use their phones to be able to access financial services? How can they be able to use their mobile phone to be able to access healthcare services? And it has to be done in a very patient manner. It has to be, it doesn't, it's not something that we have to do quickly. We have to be very slow in the way that we go about implementing policies, especially because of people who live in marginalized communities, especially because of people who on the onset already they are already excluded. So for me, I think our approach to policy making, when it comes to people who are elderly, when it comes to people living with disabilities, has to be something that is inclusive. We need to bring them on board in the design. Last year, I spent about a month in India and I saw how their government went about, even to the extent of when they want to provide water services to people, how they make sure that everyone is included in the plan of providing access to water to people, how they make sure that people who are living in rural community, in slum areas, have access to light and internet, because the way that they trade involves them liaising with markets outside of India. So when we go about our policy making, let's make sure that first we design for inclusion. The second aspect is we ensure that we give adequate time for training and support. And then the last one is we being able to partner and collaborate with civil society organizations, community-led organizations, and even and and even the private sector to be able to address the challenges that these people face, and then be able to create like inclusive environment for them to be able to use digital technology to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joshua, for all of that highlights that you talked about. I mean, even going to elderly homes and helping them have access to this internet and technology and how to use it also. I'm going to shoot my next question. I think Akin left because this question was supposed to be directed to him in regards to how farmers can have an inclusive space. So I'm just going to move to the next question. Ayo, I'm just thinking of the work you do as having boot camps for SMEs and all of that stuff. So let's look at the entrepreneur side of things. What do you think are the main barriers to some of this digital literacy and how people do businesses? You've been talking with them and of course creating boot camps for small and medium entrepreneurs. So please, what do you think are the main barriers and how can Lagos come into this?
So to be honest, the biggest barrier is two things, right? Poverty and learning poverty. That's the thing, right? So there's poverty, financial poverty, and then there's learning poverty, right? Financial poverty literally is majority of micro and nano businesses and small businesses simply do not have the money to adopt technology as sufficiently as they would require, and they simply do not also have the requisite infrastructure, social infrastructure, to drive or to enable them if effectively use that technology even where they have it. So let's assume, for example, that you win technology tools, right? There is the conversation around. So let's look at power, for example. There's no access to power. Power costs constitute about 33% of total capital costs for SMEs, for about 70% of SMEs in Nigeria. So if we had stable power, for example, it means that about 33, about one third of total capital requirement of SMEs as of today would go into other things. One of it, of course, made them the technology, right? So infrastructure cannot be taken out of it. There's also the financial poverty side of it. I mean, I don't need to overemphasize that. We already know where we are in the poverty spectrum. So what do we need to do? We see government do a lot of things around empowerment, sharing of equipment, and a couple of things. Again, I always say that it is the scale of these things that matters. In strategy, sorry, I'm a strategy person, and I was just discussing with my team about outcome versus output measurement. A lot of times government gives these things and move on, right? We cut the red tapes. We celebrate the output, which is, oh, we want to give our people machines, we want to do this, we want to train 100 people. We are not tracking the outcomes, right? Have we at the end of the day achieved what we want to achieve? How many people have gotten better? How many jobs have they created? How has the business grown because of the platform or because of the support that we have provided? So we need to be very deliberate about breaking that shackles of poverty, right? Now, that poverty is, again, about 70 or there, but I can't remember that statistics off the top of my head now, of the 41 million businesses, small businesses that we have in this country, have total capital that they are playing with of less than 5 million naira, right? So if you have total money that you are playing with being less than 5 million, there's a limit to how much can 5 million possibly multiply in a year? Divide that per month, right? So there is a limit to how much of adoption that you can have from a technology standpoint, right? And how much more beginning to do digital culture. Now let's talk about the literacy side of it, and that's why I called it learning poverty, because you can be in school up to primary school and still do not know anything about reading and writing. And that's the situation that we have found ourselves in, especially in Nigeria, right? And this is not only for primary school leavers, to be honest. And again, this is not just off the top of my head. There's data to support this. As a matter of fact, the World Bank has the data that uh, learning poverty levels in countries like Nigeria, I mean, low to middle income countries across the globe, for kids who are number of 10-year-old kids who cannot read and write, by the end of primary school, is about 53%, meaning that more than half of our kids, after leaving primary schools, cannot read and write. And this then continues into adult age. So you have a lot of adults who, again, could not read and write after leaving school, could not get tangible jobs. Some even go into universities, and then out of survival, they start small businesses. They start those small businesses on survival, and then when combining it with financial poverty, there's the learning poverty. Then the digital literacy is not even on their priority. So we have to begin to address these things from the root cause. Simon Sinek talks about starting with why. So we can't just be treating the symptoms and without knowing the root cause and expect that these things would go away. So if we want to support small businesses, we need to first look at what is their business model, what are their financial requirements, what are the critical dependencies that are required for success, how do we provide sufficient social infrastructure. We see commoditization of renewable energy, for example. How can we do it at scale such that we can do it in clusters? I remember, I can't remember the name of this company that was trying to do something like that at Iponwi, and it succeeded, and also in Ibadan, where they were providing micro renewable energy platforms for small businesses to have power, right? So these types of things would reduce their poverty level. You can then have inclusive digital capacity enhancement initiatives that will not just train them on how to use technology, but how to adopt it to their business. Then you can then provide the tools. So it's an end-to-end thing, and we really need a very rigorous think tank, and it applies to everywhere too. Environmental sustainability, you have to start from the root cause. When you look at the root cause, you solve for the root cause of the problems, and then you can begin to scale up, right? From the root cause to the symptoms to every other thing, and before you know it, you would have solved for the problems that you're trying to solve for. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to move to Ayo. Ayo and Akin, you guys are also in space where you no, mostly Ayo, you provide loans for SMEs. So what do you think that government can do before I move on to Akin?
The first thing that I can think of, infrastructure, limited infrastructure. Don't know if there's someone already touched base on this, but yeah, lack of telecommunication or internet infrastructures for people in more remote areas, right? I think this is one problem that has already been established, right? So as much as possible, like we at Tikama, we try to like reach as many SMEs and many small businesses as much as possible. But sometimes, like you are plagued with the issues of not being able to reach the grassroots, those guys that don't have access to internet, those guys that don't have access to internet, those businesses that don't have proper infrastructure, right? So you're plagued with that. So I think a solution for that off the top. Okay, before I go into the solution, I think Lagos, right? We try as much as possible to move with speed when it comes to adapting technology. I may be wrong, but things like maybe not with speed, but relative to like some places, right? And you would argue that Lagos is the hub of commerce and commercial activities in Nigeria. But then when it comes to like moving with speed to like adaptation of some certain technology, we try, but it's just maintenance that maybe shakes things up. But then I think the point I was driving at was setting up infrastructure. So I think the government can work with like private entities and private sector and like making sure like telecommunications infrastructure can get to more rural places, more rural areas, right? So the idea is not just to target people that are in the city or in the town part of Lagos. If you go to like inside like market places, places like Igondo, Igbelerin, right? I don't know, setting up things that can infrastructures that can allow these people like access the internet in real time and all of that. Yeah. Something else that I think has been like a barrier, has been a problem, and I'm not sure how soon or how this can be fixed, is cybersecurity concerns, right? I would give a very short scenario. My mom, right, she didn't have any bank app until say last year after begging her to install. So her concern was they will hack me. I don't want anybody to steal my money. I mean, she's not very I think she's tech savvy to to a reasonable extent. Well, she's not all that, but then she still understood that if she compromises herself, like she will lose all her money or she will lose. So I think many people are still living in that fear, right? Let me just keep my money with bank, or let me just bury my money somewhere. I feel like there are still people today that bury their money, and just this is just because they have not gotten to trust technology. And I cannot blame anybody, because while technology people are creating solutions every day, thinking of ideas, there are also people who are having sleepless nights trying to find out how to compromise and exploit technology. So I can't blame them, right? But I think what we can do in that area is say create awareness. I think I think you can never over communicate when it comes to like technology related things, right? Create more and more awareness for these guys, right? um, if they don't want to come to us, we take it to them by force. So I think, but then again, it just bouncing back to my initial point, which is government initiative, or government partnering with private sectors to make sure all of these things get to these guys. So if this information does, if they don't want to come get the information from us, like we go to them, right? And I think just to wrap up, some other thing I think is a barrier for like businesses and SMEs, right? Is most of the things we do is digital. It's like for most things you have to at least have a smart device to say request for a loan, except you want to go to a traditional bank, right? So and most times these devices are on the high side, like they're expensive, right? An average smartphone will probably cost you 30K or thereabouts to acquire one, and most people don't earn up to 30K in a month, right? So you have to like save for a period, a short period or long period of time to afford a smart device, right? And I think it's getting better. Really, many you can easily see a smartphone in the hands of many youths and many even aged people today. But then we cannot take away the fact that most of these devices are not affordable, and most of the services we technology people are trying to render to these people are on devices that are on smart devices. So if they don't have these devices, um, if they don't have access to like internet and power, right, power supply, adequate power supply, how do they even compare?
Talking about awareness and of course cybersecurity concern, which is actually very, very important. I talked about the shackles of poverty, meaning they can have financial support and empowerment to break this poverty cycle. In regards to these questions, anybody have anything to support, any idea, any opinion, any thoughts to support Hakim, since I already have you, and of course, you're training founders and seeing how the space has been, creating workspace also for them. What do you think Lagos can do to have more founders create options for problems and solutions, problem shooting, troubleshooting, and creating solution to the environment?
Okay, thank you very much. So I would first start from the issue that was discussed, and that is the issue of digital literacy for small businesses. Well, if there's anything that the government has always been accused of, it is not publicizing as much some of its interventions. Because last year LSCTF in partnership with UNICEF trained 5,768 young people across all 20 local governments in Lagos on digital literacy on and how to leverage social media basic tools like WhatsApp Business, Facebook to also promote their businesses. And that was done at the back of the fact that if this small mom and pop shop, pepper sellers, people that sell at open markets do not leverage social media tools, they will only be limited to people who work in front of their shops. And that training was to ensure that they are able to create what for those that had smartphones, to be able to be held on how to create WhatsApp business on their phones, be able to put pictures on them, and be able to connect to people beyond their physical environment or what they sell. People that that did not have WhatsApp enabled phones, some of them were supported with WhatsApp enabled phones at those trainings. The ones that had WhatsApp enabled phones, we supported them with having data on those phones because we understand that a critical mass of micro businesses, even nano businesses, do not know how to leverage these tools for their businesses. A lot of them know how to do it for their own personal gossips and posting their pictures, but they don't know how to do it for that. So just to add that, and that's to also add that we understand the importance of data literacy for small. And interestingly, that came months before the cash crunch, and then at least we were happy knowing that these people were able to leverage data solutions. And also, I think we also were in partnership with Access Bank, and they were able to link their WhatsApp businesses with an Access Bank tool so that they could get paid via WhatsApp and the like. So because we understand that we cannot afford to disenfranchise those groups of people. And then to your question on how Lagos State government is supporting, we understand that tech can be used either for increased profitability and for private ends such as raising funds and the likes. But we also understand that technology can also be leveraged to solve sustainable development, to achieve sustainable development goals, and also to solve social problems. And that is why we especially for this year and the previous year, we have ensured that we attach very high importance to people solving social problems. For example, one of our beneficiaries at Lagos Innovates is Access Tech Innovations. And what is she doing? She's married to a husband who has lost his eyesight, and what they're doing is creating solutions for blind people to be able to use our own kind of technologies. How creating solutions to ensure that they can also use the keyboard, they can also use the same, they can also use computer screens and the like. So the government quite understands the importance of supporting a lot of social tech enterprises to be able to solve. And we are also calling up, I'm also using this opportunity to call on as many tech or innovative driven enterprises focused on solving social problems, focused on helping Lagos and Nigeria meet the different SDGs to apply to us either for incubation. We will always link you up to mentors who have been there, done that, can hold your hand. We will also support you with access to workspaces so that you can continue building and the opportunities. For example, we get opportunities to nominate our startups to attend global events, which we ensure that we put, most importantly, women-led startups and also socially focused startups. So yeah, we understand the importance. We are doing our best to support. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that response. We have Akin here, and we have a very limited time to spend together on the space. So, the question I'm throwing to you, Akin, is when you look at the policies and initiative being implemented, how can we have these policies promote digital inclusion and, of course, close digital divide in Lagos? When you look at how Lagos has been, and of course, how you can relate it to your farmer sector.
All right, thanks again. So for us here, and from my conversation earlier on, I've always emphasized that Lagos that holds a capacity population of about 21 million needs to begin to think how it will feed itself. So in terms of policy, what does the government needs to do? Now we've been championing urban farm city over the years, and thank God for this administration of Baje Sanwo-Olu, who has been so keen in ensuring that Lagos can produce the food they eat themselves. And if you listen to my earlier conversation, I said that look, in this age, we need to have that mindset that look, in your community, in your house, how can you produce what you eat? How can you plant or grow what you eat? You know, using simple, digitally driven, and also simple environment, or your simple environment around you. So what we've done, for example, there's this initiative that Lagos just launched out. It's called Lagos Secondary School Initiative, where children can begin to learn how to grow the food they eat themselves. That is one. Then two, we need to also champion a course around our campuses, majorly within institutions in Lagos, to let our youth begin to have that focus and mindset that look, as you grow, It's high time that food is essential for survival, regardless of whatever you are doing. And you know that today, even as a civil servant worker, the only occupation or the only thing you can do is to go into agriculture. Even as a civil servant, the only occupation or the business, extra business that you can do is to get involved in agricultural enterprise. So it gives us a room to champion a cause whereby we can build a Lagos that can feed itself through an urban centric food system, whereby in each house there is a policy that might not mandate but gives you that mindset that look, you can plant your vegetables, plant your tomatoes, plant your okra around you. So you don't have to go to the market or expect one Abubakar in Nasarawa to supply you what you're going to eat. And you know that today we have the Mile 12 market, which holds virtually 60% of the food that is being consumed in Lagos today before distributed into other channels across Lagos. Though Lagos is building a food logistics hub somewhere around Epe, if I'm correct. Is it Epe or Badagry now? Okay, that is championing a holistic ecosystem for food security in Lagos. But regardless of that, there should be policies around every home in Lagos can provide what they eat by championing an urban-centric food system policy. That in your house, we can plant this. For example, in my home, my 7-year-old daughter is actually involved in agribusiness. So she has a rabbit. We have a small rabbit cage that she has about 12 rabbits. She just sold few ones a couple of weeks ago, and she made 13,000 naira, which I collected to add to her school fees. So these are things. For example, my 10-year-old son is also into maize farming. So he has a bucket where he plants maize and also plants beans, okay, which the mother cooks at home. So these are things that I personally have educated my children to learn from. And for the older generation or the youth out there, it's like time begin to look and create an hub whereby create solutions, digital solutions that can help farmers, Lagos farmers, for example, solve simple problems around the farming community. For example, I'm here probably in Bega. There's a market in Mile 12. How can me that lives in Bega or that I live in Bega access food easily from the person or the buyer or the seller in Mile 12 using the power of digital solution? I need to press a button and prompt that seller in Mile 12 and say, look, provide me XYZ in my home, without at the comfort of my home. That's the power of digital solutions. So these are simple things that I believe that as we move on to probably the next administration of the government, Bajiji Sanwo-Olu, the governor, then we can begin to look at how we can create a hub that is digitally driven, that will look critically into food security and how best food can be delivered to your comfort. Fresh food with high nutrition value can be delivered to the comfort of your home. For example, we have young guys that have developed a cold chain system whereby you can get your fresh vegetables, you can get vegetables fresh using cold chain system, very cool and still fresh. So you don't have to, so even if you've harvested 5, 6 days ago, you can still have it as fresh as if it is harvested that same day. So these are technologically driven solutions that the government needs to begin to look at that would encourage youth to build solutions around the food systems and also help avert climate crisis, which has actually been a disaster. Though it's an act of God, but definitely we can provide measures around climate crisis that would interfere with food systems with food systems in Lagos. Because when it hits or when it strikes, for example, few weeks, no, not few days ago, we have a crisis around tomatoes, okay, in Nigeria, and that is currently affecting tomato production in the northern part of the country. It's called Ebola. So these are things that we can look at: preservation, warehousing system, and using digital solutions to drive that. So, and again, I have my book, the RDA. If you want to get it, you can always DM me at any point in time. So these are things that we thought about, and we feel that by God's grace, next administration, the government needs to provide measures around providing, using the SDG goals and objective in ensuring that food security remains paramount for a 21 million growing population of Lagos State. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm also battling with electricity here. Thank you for that comment. around how Lagos State can work with farmers and, of course, how Lagosians can also get their food readily available. So I'll be throwing this question to all our speakers just to wrap this up because of time. What inspires you and make you excited about the future of Lagos? I mean, looking at the metropolitan city, what inspires you and excites you about the future of Lagos? I'm going to start with Akin since you dropped the mic last. Akin, then Mr. Abubakar, Josh, Akin, Daniel.
All right. So let me just hit it on the ground. What inspires me about Lagos is the level of is the leadership role of the governor. The governor has placed himself in a leadership role that understands the dynamics of how Lagos works. You know, putting in all structures from transport system to education to food to SME growth. You know, bringing everything together and plug it towards his team agenda for a greater Lagos. That excites me, and that's why if you ask anybody today, I'm the number one fan of the governor. I call myself actually the son of the governor, reason because what he does excites me as an individual, and also I see a future in Lagos not because of what we are seeing now, but because of the generation unborn. Okay, they have privileges that we don't have 20 years ago. Those privileges, for example, myself, my 10-year-old son is telling me that, Daddy, I want to become a YouTuber. You know, when we're growing up, they're not born you well. You have become a doctor or, you know, or a lawyer or something. But he was telling me that he wants to become a YouTuber. And as a father, I'm trying as much as possible to also encourage him, you know, what a YouTuber would need, okay, to channel his focus and his energy around that. Okay. My daughter has taken from my side in becoming a farmer. So she has rabbits that she takes care of. She feeds them. She ensures that they are healthy. You know, so that is an orientation that the governor has actually built in the Lagos that I want to see in the next couple of years.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please allow your child become a YouTuber, content creator money now, Mr. Abubakar, what do you have to say? What excites you and inspires you at the same time about the future of Lagos?
Yeah, so apparently, what the way I see it is that it's. I mean, the good part of this whole thing is that Lagos is. Let me just put it in this way. Uh, Lagos is ready for the future. Okay, we are ready for the future. So we have the necessary equipment, the brains. Like we are a lot of our youths are tech savvy. We have a lot of the brains and the people on ground to push things forward. No one is as strange to the future of technology, and I'm talking of enhanced technology. No one's as strange to it here, especially here in Lagos. A lot of our guys are tech savvy. Both our guys, the ladies, so the youths. More like the youths, including the millennials. In fact, even our Gen Zs are catching up pretty quick. So, and for a tech startup founder like myself and all the speakers right here, everyone can see a possible or a possibility whereby their business, their ideas, their goals can be achieved because we have the people to push it forward. We have people that can adopt it, people that will understand it. The support, like we have if you want to collaborate with a partner or collaborate with a brand or any a company, something like mine, like what we are doing, they are already on ground. So nothing's as strange to us. So we believe that okay, the future of technology can be driven in a very fast way, especially here in Lagos, because the infrastructure is already there. Okay. Perhaps maybe some encouragement is needed, okay, to push people forward, to give people the spirits, to believe in this future. So, with that, yeah, I believe that, like this is where I can achieve my goals and all the support that we need can be achieved, hopefully. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you
Open
so
to you.
much, Mr. Abubakar. Having
Okay.
vivid dreams about Lagos and, of course, believing that dreams do come alive in Lagos. Thank you so much for that. Joshua, do you have what do you think when you think about Lagos? What excites you and inspires you about the future of Lagos?
The first thing that excites me about Lagos is our people, the resilience of our youth, people who are constantly innovating despite the harsh environment, people who are creating things in Computer Village, in Alaba, in on the island, who are just trying to see how can they be able to support the ecosystem, whether it's in respect to technology whether it's with respect to textile, whether it's with respect to even the artisans. It's something that really inspires me. Young people who are going around to communities where there are no libraries, where there are no schools, and asking, can I set up a library here? Can I be able to fundraise to send a girl to school? Young people who are setting up digital skills program. It's something that excites me. Another thing that I'm really looking forward to is this aspect whereby our government keeps listening to our young people. I remember in the past I've had the opportunity to speak with the governor about listening to young people and then meaningfully engaging them in the decision making process in the states. It's something that excites me because I want to see a Lagos whereby as the young people are thriving, as the young people are working so hard to make sure that Lagos works, that the government is also listening to young people, because young people, there's a way that we think, and sometimes it might look lazy, it might look like, oh, what are we doing? But overall, it's all about ensuring that there's progress. And so this is something that excites me. The young people, the people of Lagos, and also a governor and a government that would listen to everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Joshua. Akim, what inspires you and also what excites you about the future of Lagos? Let's go.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think what inspires me about the future of Lagos is the role that young people are playing in this government. The If you look at the quality of the public and the public service as well as the civil service, even the appointees in the government, you see a very perfect blend of people who have very strong private sector experience, bringing all of that in to work in government, and that has also increased the quality of personnel in government, and that inspires me, because we now have people of like minds, people who are energetic, who are passionate, who have what it takes to take the state to the next level. And also because we have majority of them are also very young people who are thinking innovatively, who are thinking outside of the box, are looking for ways in which the government can do more with less. And I think the dream for the future that I envisage for this, especially via the government, is to have a government where people see their dreams coming true by being Lagos State residents. For Lagos State to be, for Lagos State to be a state where you know that the only thing that is holding you from actualizing your dream is just getting started, and you know that the government, in one way or the other, will be able to support you, and that is the kind of system that I see for Lagos State. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hakim. The future of Lagos is if you can succeed in Lagos, you can succeed anywhere. Daniel, what do you have to say when you think of the future of Lagos? What inspires you and excites you at the same time in
Yeah,
regards to the
actually,
metropolitan city?
if you can actually succeed in Lagos, I think you can succeed anywhere. But I mean, I like that, and that's basically my mentality. If I can succeed in this place, man, and I think the opportunities are endless. And I'll just go back to something I said at the beginning on how, like, technology has not stopped advancing. I don't think it will ever stop. And every day, I think I see people like being very open minded to the possibilities of technology. And again, the cash crunch was an eye opener. I think over the years we'll see more adaptation, and I think I'm really looking forward to how that goes. And again, what's it called? The I think in the transport sector, I think many people. I didn't think, not that I didn't. I mean, I didn't think it will happen very soon. Like, but people adapting to like recharging their cowrie cards and all of that so that they can access transport. I think all of these things put together, like, they inspire me a lot. And I think, give it what, 5 years, 10 years, I think Lagos will be better than what it is currently. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, Daniel, for that. Thank you to all our speakers, distinguished speaker, Akin Alabi, Abubakar, and Mr. Abubakar. I'm just going to stick with that. Thank you, Abubakar Sanusi. Yes. Mr. Joshua, thank you so much for your time and the knowledge shared. I know you are actively very involved with the SDG. Most of all of these things that have been spoken today, Lagos is listening to it and implementation is ongoing. Also, thank you, Daniel, for all the points you raised. I appreciate your time and knowledge shared in this space. We do this every week with the Lagos SDG and Invest page. We always come on to look at the goals, highlight the goals for the week, and of course, break down these goals into conversations that we can share with our speakers, and of course have people come into the space listen, and of course share any opinions that they have. In regards to that, if there's anyone with any opinion to support this, or maybe you have a future you're envisioning that wasn't mentioned, please, we have a minute to take that now. Anyone? Are you guys not thinking of Lagos? Don't you want flying cars? I mean, an environment that is very, very healthy. I'm sure we all want that.
Now, I don't know if there are fashion designers in this space listening to this conversation, but if there are any, we would like to, like meet up with them. Perhaps it might be a discussion on WhatsApp, for example, so we can get some ideas on how we can, figure some of the main problems in the fashion industry, how we can solve them, collaborating with fashion designers, especially because we have most of them are females though, but we have a lot of males too. So how we can integrate some of these traditional fashion features to digital, with their help, it will be very helpful. As I said, we are creating a platform. We want to have everything within it, and the only way you can do that is if we have a lot of input from different people, across the industry. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
All right, so you can just share your social media handle because this would be the last wrap for everyone of the speaker. Starting with you, Joshua, then we'll move to Akin, Mr. Abubakar, and Daniel. Please share your social media handle to connect. And don't forget to follow Lagos SDG and Invest page. We are also here, Africa Tech Radio, reporting technological advancements in Africa, one broadcast at a time. So let's follow each other. Thank you so much, Akin. So, Mr. Joshua, share your social media handles and how people can link up with you.
Right, thank you so
Right,
much,
thank you so much,
everyone.
everyone.
So I'm
So I'm
active on
active on
Twitter at I
Twitter
am
at I
Joshua
am
Alade on
Joshua Lade on
Twitter,
Twitter.
and also on LinkedIn, Joshua Alade on LinkedIn. You could always shoot me an email, Joshua at nigerianyouthsdgs.org. So yeah, those are the best three channels to get across to me. Thank you so much for a very interesting conversation.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Joshua. And don't forget, the food must go round, though. Share to us. Mr. King, please share with us your social media handle and how people can connect with you.
All right. So my social media handle basically is Akinwale underscore CFI for my Instagram page, for my Twitter page, for my LinkedIn. It's the same thing. You see, if I'm Akinwale Alabi, that's my full name. So I'm available on virtually all social media platforms. And to also get my book, you can send me a DM. The book is The Rise of Digital Agriculture. I call it the RDA. It was published around 6 different countries in the world. So my book is The Rise of Digital Agriculture. If you want a copy, you can always send me a DM. It's available in e-copy and also the hard copy. So you can always send me a DM. I'll make it available to you. So thank you very much for having me on this space. Quite a very deep and intense conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Mr. Abubakar, please share with us your social media handle.
Okay, well, apparently mine is very simple and it's very easy to access. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Mr. Abubakar Sanusi. That's my own. It's just that simple. Jupiter Studios, also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube. So it's Jupiter with a Jopiter Studios. Mine is Mr. Abubakar Sanusi on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Daniel, how can people link up and connect with you?
Yeah, on Twitter it is the Daniel Lamar. Lamar with double R's, like Kendrick Lamar. On Instagram it is D Lamar. There's no Daniel D Lamar. So I think that's all. Those are the only places I'm active. Then LinkedIn, yeah. I think when you search Daniel Anyibu, you see me on LinkedIn. We have to be more serious on that space. So I didn't put any Lamar, whatever. Yeah.
LinkedIn will bring out your serious side. I mean, you don't want to be explaining to recruiters why you're related to. Yeah. A big thank you to Anthony. I see you were all you stayed all through the conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Sharif. Thank you, David. Jemima, thank you so much. I think I saw one of your messages late asking about the question, but that's the reason why I always emphasize the question again before moving to the next person. Also, thank you. I'm trying to see, it's showing Nigeria affordable, affordable, ready to wear. Okay, I'm trying to get out the real name. I still can't pronounce it, but thank you so much for sharing your time with us this evening. Fela Machiavelli, okay. Thank you so much also for your time on the space. This Twitter handle name, shy. Peaceful Touts. Thank you so much for your time. I could see you stayed all through also. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ebube, yes, I saw Ebube also for a very long time in the space. Thank you for sharing your time with us and sticking it through the conversation. Anna Arix, thank you so much also for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And hello, Beto Works. Oh my goodness. Twitter handle, Sha. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for joining this space. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week, Friday. Hopefully you keep a reminder for Lagos SDG and Talk to Lagos. Yes, of course. On this note, I want to call it a beautiful, beautiful evening and happy weekend to each and every one of us from Africa Tech Radio and of course from the table of Lagos SDG and Invest. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Africa Tech Radio.